The hotly anticipated Sony A6300 doesn't disappoint much. It's a fabulous little camera, a worthy successor to the highly rated and best-selling A6000 and its predecessor, the NEX6.
With a large sensor, the standard DSLR APS-C size, 24 megapixels, interchangeable lenses, full manual adjustments with good controls, a bright and fast viewfinder, 4K video and 14-bit RAW stills, articulated built-in flash shoe, there's not much that's lacking in basic functionality. It's a big, powerful camera in every way except size.
Although the 6300 is small, the ergonomics are good. It's a nice grip. All the controls, including the menu button, easily accessible with one hand while the other supports the lens. No odd buttons in out-of-the-way places, although some, like the AEL button, are a little small. LCD articulates up and down.
In some ways, it's too small. Even standard Sony lenses like the 16-70 don't clear a tripod quick release plate, which results in scuffing. And the LCD is so close to the bottom that it can't be tilted out while on a tripod. Inside, Sony shows its technology prowess with a feature set that's not easily equaled. Not in this category, and for some features, not in any camera. The headline features include fast focusing with better coverage across the entire sensor and better video with 4K. Let's start with that. The basics of the focus system will be familiar to Sony photographers. There are 4 modes: single, continuous, auto, which switches from single to continuous when movement is detected, and DMF, or direct manual focus, which focuses when the shutter is soft pressed but still allows manual adjustment. Depending on style, my recommendation is to use one of the last two. Manual focus mode provides an expanded view when you turn the focus ring on the lens, a very useful focusing assist. Speed and coverage are easily seen in continuous mode, where the screen is covered with focus spots that track and move. In continuous, it's clear how fast, confident, and accurate focus can be, both in well-lit and dark situations, and how much of the screen is covered. In the real world, that means I shot an entire day of run-and-gun video interviews in continuous. It focused quickly, rarely got distracted, it never wavered during a shot. I just didn't have to think about it, and that's appreciated. In the dark, the AF illuminator, tab 1 screen 3, provides an assist, but can be disabled. If it's on but not working, it's likely because the illuminator is positioned in such a way that your finger blocks it pretty much by default. For even faster focusing, use pre-AF, which focuses on anything the camera is pointed to when it's on. I leave this off not because it reduces battery life, but because with DMF it refocuses while I'm recomposing. The similarly named iStart AF works with A-mount lenses and the A-mount lens adapter, and starts focusing when an eye is detected by the viewfinder. Focus is, by default, interlocked with the shutter button. Soft press to focus, green boxes, and a beep confirms. Focus can be disengaged using tab 2 screen 5 so that the camera doesn't refocus for every shot if not required. This requires you to assign focus to another button. On tab 2 screen 7, custom screen 2, I've customized the AF-MF button for that purpose. So when the switch is at AF-MF, pressing the button focuses. This technique is usually called back focus. Expanded view with a nice on-screen distance meter works automatically only in manual focus for stills. It doesn't work in DMF or in video. Using menu tab 2 page 7, I've customized C1 with focus magnifier to get the expanded view. Press once to position the view box, again for the expanded view, again to zoom further, once more to return. The automatic expanded view is controlled on tab 2 screen 1 MF Assist. The next menu item, Focus Magnify Time, sets the length of time the expanded view remains on screen. I use no limit. If you use manual focus, the AF on button doesn't work, so reassign AF/MF to toggle and AEL to AF on for this complicated workaround. Step 1, switch to AF/MF and toggle to AF. 2, switch to AEL and press to autofocus. 3, switch back to AF/MF and toggle back to MF. 4, fine-tune manual. It would be nice if Sony just enabled AF on in manual. I also have a minor aggravation with the kit lens, where the single lens ring doubles as zoom and focus. In DMF it zooms, it only focuses in manual. There's no setting to customize this behavior, which is odd. With the ring and the slider, there are actually 2 zoom controls. Another customization I'm missing? The ability to use a custom button to toggle the focus shutter interlock. That's not an option. Activate Center Lock on Autofocus on tab 1, page 6. The prompt appears on screen in wide and center area modes. Press on the center button, and then it locks onto the subject. Once engaged, it tracks the subject through multiple exposures and tracks through extensive movement. It's great for burst mode with fast movement. In Zone and Flexible Spot, press the center button and use the cursor control to move the focus area. Focus in movie mode is quite different from stills. Only manual and continuous are available. When shooting video, with the AF/MF set to toggle between the two, I can let continuous find the focus and lock it by switching to manual. But there's no expanded view in manual, and the nice distance ruler is gone. Focus magnifier on C1 still works. Press for a view box, which can be moved. Press again for the expanded view, which can still be moved. Once more to return to normal. With an external monitor or recorder connected, the LCD is off until you switch HDMI info display to off. Then expanded view appears only on the LCD or viewfinder, while the external device receives a clean feed. This is useful because it enables you to check focus while you're recording. There are 2 movie-specific focus settings on tab 1, screen 4. AF drive speed, which controls whether the focus engine reacts quickly, as you want during a sporting event, normal, or slowly. And track sends, normal is less easily distracted when something passes closer to the lens than the subject. There are 6 focus areas: wide, zone, which can be positioned, center, which cannot, flexible spot, 3 sizes, medium, large, and small, positioned over a 22-spot vertical and 19 horizontal grid. Expand flexible spot, which expands if a focus point can't be found in the spot. Here's a hidden focus feature in Auto Single and Auto Auto, AF in Focus Mag. Turn it on, press C1 for expanded view and then focus. There are 2 expanded views in stills. The camera then focuses super accurately on the tiniest of objects. Impressive. One more. If it's annoying to have the focus points on screen as you compose, tab 2, screen 3, AF Area Auto Clear clears the screen as soon as focusing is completed. Finally, although not part of the focus settings, Face Detect remains the best way to focus people. It's easy to miss eye autofocus, a supplement to face detection, as it has to be assigned to a custom button. After detecting a face, press the assigned key for an accurate focus on the subject's eye. Up to 8 faces can be registered, and registered faces are prioritized, which may be useful for a wedding, but only if the bride and groom's faces are registered beforehand. I've not yet decided if this is better than AF in Focus Mag. Sony has not incorporated all of its competitors' features, but after spending time with this new focus engine, I'm spoiled. Admittedly, there's a learning curve, but between the speed, confidence, and configurations, this leads the industry. I find Sony's JPEG processing to be very neutral. If you are planning to shoot in JPEG, use tab 1, screen 1 to select extra fine quality, and select Vivid or another creative style for a little more punch.
4K video is starting to feel a little old hat, but it's a powerful addition, even if you're only creating HD. Along with picture profiles and an audio input, it makes the A6300 a very solid video camera. And in many ways, it's so close to being pro that pro reviewers are taking a look.
Not surprisingly, they're finding a few issues. Personally, I think that's amazing. pros may find a few deficiencies, but for you and I, this is best-in-class video. And even I have a few reservations, mostly because of the many inconsistencies, the crazy differences between the various modes and settings. 4K is available in XAVCS format at 24 and 30 frames at 60 and 100 meg data rates, HD at 24, 30, and 60 frames at 50 meg data rates, as well as 120 frames at 60 and 100. 120 frames per second provides clear playback for up to 5 times slow motion in editing. However, remember that the math here means that even shooting at the 100 meg data rate means it's reduced to 20 megs when played at 1/5 speed. For the higher data rates and best performance, you'll want an SDXC card rated U3. On tab 6 screen 3, the A6300 can be set in either NTSC, the North American TV standard, or PAL, used in Europe. Nice to have that option, but NTSC and PAL can't coexist on a single memory card. This video is produced in 4K, although the screen captures are up-resed HD, as the 6300 HDMI info display option is not available in 4K. And you might think twice about HD. Side by side, I find the down-resed 4K to be sharper with better color reproduction. If you need immediate in-camera playback of slow motion, use the movie mode's HFR settings, which I'm hesitant to recommend. These settings record at 120 frames, but lower quality and without sound. The data rate is only 13 megs. Tab 1 Screen 2 selects 30 frame playback for 4 times or 24 frames for 5 times slow. Shooting in HFR means there's no need to go to a computer to see the slow motion playback. But really, this feature would be better implemented as a playback function instead of a record function to slow the speed down in playback. Depending on the format chosen, there are crop factors. The Super 35mm designation provides the full sensor readout, which is done without line skipping and pixel binning for the highest quality. The 4K dimensions are the UHD or video format, 3840 by 2160. The wider Cinema 4K format is not supported. 4K 30p, which isn't Super 35mm, is about 80%. The 120 frame modes are about 90%. The display adjusts to show exactly what you're recording. Incidentally, both viewfinder and LCD can be used while shooting video. The viewfinder is exceptionally bright, clear, and fast. There's a menu setting to up the refresh rate to 120 frames. 4K quality for everything I shot is astounding, clear and detailed, likely thanks to the full sensor readout. There are also several HD modes in AVC HD and MP4 formats. For HD, I find that down-resed 4K, with its ability to crop or zoom up to 2 times without loss of resolution, is my default. Picture profiles contain multiple settings to adjust the sensor's response to light and color. The 9 presets are samples. Navigate right to see the various components. The big deal here is S-Log, a Sony professional response curve that increases the dynamic range. I've done a more detailed video to walk through this aspect. Click here or link in the description. There's absolutely no need to use them. Video recording is of extraordinarily high quality without making these adjustments. But if you are mildly interested, use Profile 3 or 4 to look like video, 5 or 6 to look like cinema. 7, 8, and 9 are useful when the exposure range of the scene, usually an exterior, looks either too bright with overexposed highlights or too dark with muddy shadows. 7, 8, and 9 can do a better job of capturing that wide range, but they need to be adjusted when you're editing or they'll look dull and washed out. They also introduce a lot of noise, particularly in the darkest part of the image. Exposure also becomes tricky, and both histogram and zebra will perform differently than you're used to. I would advise you to create your look in camera to the extent that it's possible. The A6300 records video in 8-bit, which does not really lend itself well to post-production adjustment. So while it's nice to have S-Log, it's still a consumer camera. Incidentally, There's a monitor setting on tab 6 screen 1 that compensates for the S-log gamma curves used in 7, 8, and 9, so they're better represented on screen. If the screen is washed out and colors look odd, check this setting. I've left mine on auto. The depth of the picture profiles, the complexity of the variations and adjustments that are made can be overwhelming. Sony's online guide provides few specifics, so there's a lot of trial and error while we figure out our favorite settings or the appropriate settings for a specific scene. For what it's worth, my current default setting has become Profile 6 with gamma changed to Cine 4, saturation -2, detail -4, but that will likely evolve, and I do often make some minor adjustments in editing. Note that the picture profile settings don't reset even if you do a full reset of the camera. Each resets individually, the last item on the profile menu.
This is a DSC Labs Xyla chart. It's a professional tool meant to measure the dynamic range, and this can measure up to 25 stops.
I've described profiles and gamma in more detail in other videos, but let me repeat a few things. With S-log 2 and 3, a much wider lighting latitude can be captured. As displayed on the Xyla chart, basic profiles capture a range of about 7 or 8 stops. With S-log 2, that increases to 11 or 12, S-log 3, 14 or 15. Now there's a misconception that S-log will make any scene look better. Well, no. Using it inside, where the lighting range is 8 stops or less, will reduce quality. It's always my practice to shoot using the highest available quality settings, and here that means 4K. But shooting in 4K risks overheating. Shooting on a beach in Cancun or in a studio in Toronto, it can reach its boiling point in the 15-minute range, shutting down completely shortly afterwards. Testing at room temperature from a cold start, I was able to record 29 minutes 50 seconds without issue, at which point it reaches its artificially imposed time limit, and start recording again. But less than 3 minutes into the second recording, the overheating icon appeared and the camera shut down about 6 minutes later. I've tried several things to mitigate, but pulling the LCD away or leaving the ports open didn't seem to help. It doesn't overheat if you're recording only on an external recorder or recording in XAVCS HD instead of 4K. Connecting an external monitor or recorder like the Atom Shogun to the A6300's HDMI port provides lots of interesting notes. First, in 4K, the LCD goes black when recording. The data screen stays on though, and that doesn't happen in HD. The HDMI settings on tab 6 screen 4 sets the output resolution, toggles the info display, turns timecode on, and activates the camera's record button as a trigger for the external recorder. The timecode options are on screen 3. In counter mode, the screen shows elapsed time in the bottom left. TC mode shows the timecode. To record real time, use user bits, and on page 2, turn the user bit time on. To record 24 frame on the external recorder, it seems as if all you'd have to do is select it from the menu. Not so fast. First option is to use the screen 4 4K outputs to HDMI only 24 frame. That's what I'd recommend. To also record internally, with its risk of overheating, change the record setting to memory card plus HDMI. In XAVCS HD, all record settings, 60, 30, 24, and 120, output 1080p 60. If you want 1080 24, change the HDMI resolution from auto to 2160 and 1080, and only then does the 2460 frame selector work, so change to 24. Crazy complicated. There are a few video caveats, the first being rolling shutter, particularly in 4K. The sensor's slow scan rate makes it very susceptible to jello effects, as you see in this pan where the vertical lines bend to the left and right. Not so bad in HD. Anti-aliasing, the color rainbows in fine patterns, are sometimes evident and can be reduced by turning down the detail in your preferred profile. You'd likely do that anyway. Incidentally, on tab 6 screen 1 monitor brightness, the very useful sunny weather setting is not available in 4K. I've shown some of the many little gotchas, minor inconsistencies from one video setting to another. They're frustrating and annoying. I do wish there was standard functionality across the board. If you're wondering just how close the A6300 comes to broadcast quality, it seems to fall just short. Check the links in the description below. I think that's a very impressive result for a camera this size and price, and my shoots with the A6300 bear witness to that. I don't do tech mumbo jumbo, but if sharpness, clarity, and low light performance are any indication, this sensor is a nice step forward. Here's a shot using the Picture Profile 6 modifications mentioned earlier with a single candle, exposing for the candle, and I'm judging using the Shogun's waveform, at 1/30th shutter. It's f22 and ISO 200. Opening the iris to f1.8, the roses start to appear. ISO 1600 provides a nicely exposed image. ISO 64 with an iris of f3.2. ISO 12.8 at f4.5. ISO 25.6 takes the iris to f6.3. It's grainy and the saturation has decreased, but it's still a usable image if conditions require. And we still have nearly 4 stops in hand. For stills, ISO 12.8 provided a nice mood for this black and white set, but also worked not badly in color. There's a hidden feature called bright monitoring, assignable to a custom button, that's useful for shooting stills with manual focus in the dark. In video, shutter can be set lower than the frame rate, down to 1/4 second. It's an interesting capability that's not available on most cameras. You'll want an ND filter. For stills, shutter ranges from 30 seconds in bulb to 1/4000th. There are 3 shutter modes: all mechanical, tab 2 screen 5 to turn electronic front curtain off, 2 clicks, electronic front on, 1 click, and fully electronic, no clicks, or silent shooting. It is fully silent and inaudible for discrete shooting. Although many cameras have a faster shutter speed in electronic mode, the A6300 does not. For fully silent, turn off the focus beep on tab 6 screen 1. Note also that picture profiles and effects are not available when using the silent shutter and are disabled once you select it. There are 3 JPEG modes: standard, fine, and extra fine. Each increase in quality doubles the amount of information saved. Use extra fine to avoid disappointment. Incidentally, RAW Plus saves fine. The A6000 had a novice mode with easy adjustments for exposure and aperture. There's no equivalent feature here. Press the bottom of the control dial for a 10-stop exposure compensation adjustment. In program mode, turn the control dial for alternate shutter aperture combinations. In manual mode, the dial sets the shutter, the control wheel sets the aperture. Tab 2 screen 7 to exchange those. There are 3 meter modes: multi, center weighted, and a fixed center spot. The manual mode meter, just right of center, provides a numerical over-under indication. Display modes, which can be customized on tab 2 screen 2, can include a histogram, which appears on its own screen. Best in Class Zebra, tab 2 screen 1, includes standard displays in 5-step increments and 2 customizable modes where both level and range can be set. As some of the gamma curves are designed with a mid-gray at a specific level, S-Log2 for example wants it at 32, this can be very useful. Although picture profiles are recommended for video, they do work for stills as well. A more standard set of options, Creative Styles, is also available. In addition to the 13 presets, each with 7-step contrast, saturation, and sharpness controls, there are 6 style box versions to save customized settings. For both profiles and styles, shoot in RAW Plus to save both a clean and adjusted version of the image. If you want to get even fancier, the picture effects, although incompatible with RAW and burst shooting, offer an interesting set of in-camera image manipulations. Toy, pop, retro, selective color. Some are unique and inducing. The HDR painting, which has 3 versions, low, mid, and high, catches my eye, as do watercolor and illustration, also with 3 settings. But may I ask one more time to please have a clean RAW file saved along with the affected JPEG. To get a little more control over the picture effects, use the downloadable Picture Effects app. This is one of many apps available in Sony's Play Memory Camera App Store. Some are free, others cost a small amount. Download them directly to the camera after connecting to your home Wi-Fi network, or connect the camera to a computer. Click on Connect to Camera and follow the instructions. It's also worth bookmarking Sony's support page to monitor firmware updates. Other models have been updated several times since their release. Watch for lens updates also. One picture effect, Sony's best-in-class panorama, rates its own spot on the mode dial. Hold the shutter down, pan, and you're done. Options set the size of the image and 4 pan directions. Drive modes include 4 burst settings. High Plus runs at 11 per second, 4 seconds to fill the buffer, 1 per second after that. There's no interruption to the LCD or viewfinder display while bursting at High Plus. At High, there's a flicker. Combining burst with the focus engine resulted in photos that truly exceeded my expectations. 10, 5, and 2 second timers. There are a full complement of continuous and single exposure brackets, as well as white balance and dynamic range. There's no intervalometer, but there is one available as a downloadable smart app. In a world where every camera does Wi-Fi, Sony's app sends pictures to the smart device, or allows the device to select several images for multiple photo transfer. The Play Memories app, available for both iOS and Android, is free. And there's remote control, either with a basic embedded app or the free Smart Remote downloadable app. Touch to focus and snap, change the white balance, focus mode, and zoom. Works for stills and video. There's a mirror mode for self-shooting. Sony also provides a desktop app for tethered shooting. But while other brands offer GPS to transfer from the device to the camera, that's not available here.
The A6300 will rightfully inherit the praise and awards heaped on its predecessors. It's a worthy successor. That said, it is missing a few features that are starting to feel standard.
I have a few physical complaints: the backwards SD slot, the LCD that can't be rotated down on a tripod, or the lens mount that's so low some lenses can't be mounted, the focus illuminator that's inevitably blocked by my fingers. And it's getting time to move beyond 8-bit for video to fully exploit S-Log, as well as support for the new 4K Rec 2020. Battery life remains a sore point for me and every other reviewer for the A6300 and most other Sony models. It's time Sony addressed this issue. And the 30-minute recording limitation on video, for whatever reason, it's unreasonable and needs to be fixed.
It's not quite the value combination offered by the A6000, and it has more than its share of quirks. But with an amazing focus engine and near pro 4K video, the A6300 tops my list of APS-C sized mirrorless cameras.